All right, we got Lifeguard Yuze here. As you can see, she is using an umbrella and a bit of a, I don't know what you even call these things, a boogie, a buoy, a big long body pillow, something like that, as a means for, as her weapon. Look, as you can tell, I'm struggling because I can't really tell you how I feel about these sorts of things. I don't like summer skins in general. I feel they're very much a gimmick. And the summer skin series has been weird to me that they're bringing 4 stars up to 5. I kind of like the premise in a ways, but I would much rather them just make 4 stars usable than make them have to be 5 stars. And whatever you did to the previous Yuze, you no longer get to use on this Yuze. So that seems kind of weird. It's kind of like Eva and Idle Eva, which I was kind of confused by that as well. Wasn't the biggest fan of that. I don't really like this as a whole, but let's dig into her. So she's a 2-handed sword user. Spin a 2-handed sword to inflict damage to enemies, reduces damage enemies defense by 20% for 5 seconds. As you can imagine, that is crazy strong. If you didn't get down here and you see the party weapon skill regen of 30%, if she didn't have something like that, you would say that she is very much a Nari. She's basically like the 2-handed version of Nari's normal attack here. But the weapon skill regen speed plus 30 is interesting. I think the only character we really have in the game that's usable like that is Future Knight. So seeing her as a 2-handed option, taking this ability from her without some of the additional things, so she's not as much dependent on that weapon skill as Future Knight is, but regardless, let's keep going into it. Apply shock to enemies heart to deal 350% DPS damage. That's not amazing. The actual down to airborne is pretty good within the water types, so that's good. So endurance while using Aqua Whirl increases defense by 30%, which is pretty strong. Continuous use of Aqua Whirl increases attack speed and movement speed by a maximum of 30%. The movement speed is pretty important to her kit as well. That buff alone makes her to where she's actually viable in arena. The attack speed is very strong as well. This is one of the very few attack speed modifiers we see in the game. And if you guys have watched my other videos, you know full well that I very value attack speed because of the way that this game scales off animations itself. It does, like, a lot of these numbers truly don't mean a ton. Yeah, they do like change the way that a character's max DPS is, but the modifiers that the developers have placed on the actual animation itself is far more important a lot of times than the actual DPS when evaluating a unit. So when you see something like an attack speed buff come in here, that means that those modifiers itself are activating more and more, which is very, very strong. So we've already talked about this weapon skill regen speed plus 30%. So knowing how valuable this is depends on how valuable her weapon is. And then if her weapon isn't that valuable, then it depends on how you would slot her into other teams. Given the state of water, this isn't that important for the water comp. So we have Ocean Keeper here at 4,000 damage per second. That's pretty high, even for a 2-handed weapon. Let's look over here. Jumps towards the target to inflict damage and creates a safe zone, puts enemies in a down state. The safe zone is going to be a keyword. The attack damage here is not very strong. So water attack, critical hit chance plus 8. That's pretty average. The defense up to 71. That's pretty solid. Defense plus 20%, very strong. HP 20%, skill damage 20%, which is pretty important considering that this is pretty low. It increases the range of Aqua Whirl by 30%. So now our auto attack is attacking faster and wider with this. Well, the attack speed doesn't change with this. It's changed through use, but now it gets 30% wider. Increases attack of all allies within the safe zone by 30% for 5 seconds, which would probably be more important for something like Coliseum if you're stacking a lot of melee people on top of each other, considering you see jumps towards the target to inflict damage and creates a safe zone. That safe zone means that whoever she's jumping towards, she's buffing the people around her. So she's going to be very much within a melee composition. So you could see something like, so the first question is, does she have to be with any other water types besides Marina? The answer, in my opinion, is no. She doesn't seem to truly fit the water build that well. People that I think you could see a pretty interesting pairing with her, and I think what you will see is you'll see some combinations of parties like this with her. This would be pretty interesting. I don't think you actually have to use her weapon as the leader. I don't think she needs to be that leader. skill. I think you could use someone like Lilith or Beth, depending on which one you prefer more. I do like Lilith more. I like that range that comes with her, and I find that if you could boost her weapon attack, it'd be very strong as well. You could go Marina, but you don't have to go Marina. So let's go ahead and remove Marina from the mono and throw in Future Princess here. I think if you did this type of composition, or even you threw in someone like Agma, I think that you're in a really good position. They really need to come out with a melee hero that is also a healer. I think that would be a very strong addition to this game. Somebody that really heals when they're in your face and you have to rely on CC to truly knock them down. Like maybe if you put them in stun, they take additional damage or something like that. But I think a composition like this, just on the surface, looks pretty strong. I do think she has some innate synergies with the water team, especially with someone like Marina. If you're running Marina as your leader, getting to call that bombardment support to attack enemies around, puts the enemies in down state. I think that, but overall, I think she is pretty necessary in mono raids, mainly just because that she is yet another 3-star or natural 3-star when it comes to the water. So you don't have a ton of options when it comes to that. So she's pretty important when it comes to raid, even though she doesn't have true synergy in that way. But reducing that enemy's defense by 20% makes your Garum hit that much harder, which is pretty strong as well. So you could ignore the fact that she is melee and doing the skill up and put her into compositions that aren't melee. I think though, based off of the way that her attack structure is set up and her defense structure set up, that she's going to predominantly be used in melee compositions. But because of her passive not being a melee only in the leader skill, you could slot her into a ranged composition, right? So you could do something like, let's see, I think you could run these 3 with her as well, and it would be pretty good. It would be very, very high burst centric, and you're really relying on Yuze as your frontliner, which is kind of awkward, to be honest, and then Gabriel to heal as well. You're getting a lot of crit. Essentially, you're trying to just buy enough damage for Garum. And on the surface, it's really good if you're not running into someone that's using that Agma, if you're not using just like a true tank option in Coliseum, which is kind of rare, but you could cheese a couple compositions or something like this. So overall, I think that she kind of slots well within the current state of the game. I think the fact that she has that defense shred is very important to the way that she'll see use in the future. And compared to last week's Sohi, I think that this one is overall stronger. So I would say that she's not in the must roll category. I would say that she is in the strongly suggested to roll category at all phases of the game. So be it if you're a new player, if you're a mid-game player, if you're an in-game player, if you're a whale type of character or player, I think that Yuze is going to be someone on your short list. And I think it makes a lot of sense to go after her. So guys, that's my analysis. I hope you appreciate it, enjoy it, and I look forward to seeing you more. I am still grinding hard on my own game. I've spent less time in Guardian Tales lately, I will admit that, but that's just because I've spent so much time designing my own gacha game. So keep your eyes out for that, guys. Take care.